In the charming town of Aramir, a hotspot for Ian Tyrone, the Emperor's maternal cousin, an intriguing rendezvous unfolds. Here, we meet Olivia Florence, or Miss Florence as she prefers. Despite her title as the Duchess of Parnell, she insists on shedding the formality, given her husband's current military service and their marriage's shaky standing under Imperial law. Their union hasn't been consummated, rendering it invalid. This detail prompts her request for Tyrone to address her more personally. Tyrone finds himself both intrigued and caught off guard by her boldness, especially when she proposes marriage to him. Rewinding a bit, we see Olivia waking up in a room that's all too familiar, the same one from her honeymoon. But something's off, her maid looks way younger, and when she hears her late mother-in-law Rosa Parnell's voice, Olivia starts piecing together the puzzle. Apparently, our leading lady here had somehow time-traveled 20 years back. Just then, James, the Duke of Parnell and Olivia's so-called husband, makes a dramatic entrance. His armor is covered in blood, and the maid's panic sets a grim tone. He's here to see Olivia, who's totally taken aback by his sudden appearance. Breakfast the next day is a turning point for Olivia. Putting up with what she endured from her mother-in-law 2 decades ago is out of the question now. Challenged at the dinner table, she snaps back, demanding the respect and authority she deserves as the Duchess of Parnell, especially in her husband's absence. Her boldness catches everyone off guard. After all, they're clueless about her time-traveling journey. She asserts herself as the head honcho and demands control over the Duke's finances, schooling her mother-in-law on her accounting expertise when challenged. The standoff escalates until Olivia decides to take matters into her own hands and writes a letter, hoping to sway her husband to her side. Olivia's letter is a beacon of hope in the Parellian mansion, signaling a potential shift in dynamics. She dreams of correcting past mistakes and bringing peace back to her family. When the letter finally arrives, Olivia's heart races with anticipation. But the victory she imagined crumbles as she reads James' response, urging her to listen to her mother's. Heartbroken, she realizes James hasn't changed, and now she must brace herself for the backlash from her earlier defiance at the dinner table. The next few days are rough for Olivia. Her bold move to shake things up at the mansion backfires, and the backlash from the moms-in-law has her rethinking the whole marriage gig. Things take a turn when the bossiest of the bunch, her third mother-in-law, basically tells her she's on the verge of getting kicked out once James gets back. That's when it hits her, she doesn't have to stick around for round 2 with James. Grateful for the wake-up call, Olivia decides she's done with the whole Duchess of Parnell charade. She takes a reflective walk in the garden, mulling over her marriage to James. It was all because of some army rule that required him to be married before heading off to war. But why her? Their shared birthday seemed like the only connection. That's when Ian Tyrone pops into her head. Remembering how the town buzzed with gossip after a ball incident, dubbing Ian the eunuch of the streets, Olivia gets an idea. With a bit of help from her pal Romeo Alkaisis, who's next in line to be emperor, she lets a cheeky song about herself go viral, kickstarting her master plan. Romeo's worried about the fallout, but Olivia's got songwriting skills and a clear goal: divorce. James' mom is the first to confront Olivia about the scandalous song, having caught wind of it at a tea party. Fuming, she's more concerned about her son's reputation than anything. When Olivia meets with Ian at Aramir, the capital's top tea house, she's ready to make her case. Despite the awkward start to their meeting, Ian's intrigued, especially after hearing from his cousin, the Emperor, about the rumors swirling around. Ian's visit to the tea house is all business. He's there to quash rumors and figure out what Olivia's after. Despite the Empire's stance on arranged marriages, Ian's open to hearing her out. Their conversation takes a turn when Olivia boldly proposes marriage, unfazed by Ian's reputation. She sees a chance for a fresh start away from James and his domineering family. Their chat moves to a private room as Olivia continues her tea spree, arguing her case for marriage to a somewhat bewildered Ian. He's curious why she'd pick him, given the risky business of ending an Imperial marriage. Olivia lays it all out. She's tired of being mistreated and sees Ian as her ticket out. Moved by her honesty and determination, Ian agrees to marry her, marking the start of a new chapter for both of them. At the moment, Olivia's feeling pretty proud of herself. She's escaped the drama of the Pirellian mansion and is now enjoying some much-needed peace. When Ian mentions the only sleeping option is the couch, Olivia can't help but smile. Compared to the chilly reception back at James' place, this feels like luxury. Plus, the thought of never having to deal with those overbearing mother-in-laws again? Priceless. Ian, however, isn't thrilled about the couch situation and makes it clear he's not inviting her to his room either. But then, out of nowhere, he's curious about Olivia's thoughts on him being a eunuch. Given her past experiences, having 2 kids and then facing neglect from James, Olivia's pretty much done with the whole parenting gig. She keeps it simple, saying she's not interested in having more kids. Expecting a bit of pushback, she's surprised when Ian just nods, leading her to playfully prod him about not being too concerned with family legacy. Their back and forth has a playful edge, leaving Ian with that intense gaze. As Ian heads off to prep for their wedding, Olivia's left to ponder on his unique situation. Despite a restless night filled with dreams of James, she wakes up to find Ian looking sharp and ready for breakfast. He reminds her that soon, they'll be sharing meals as a married couple. Over breakfast, Ian mentions the Emperor's waiting for them, triggering memories of Romeo's support during tough times. Ian's curious about Olivia's backup plan had he refused her proposal. Confident as ever, she admits she'd probably be out on her luck if things hadn't worked out. Then, Ian wonders if she's considering going back home now that her family's debts are cleared. Olivia's firm on not returning, especially after her father's boastful claims about her marriage arrangement. Post-breakfast, Olivia's informed about her tailor appointment before their visit to the Emperor. Ian teases her about her wardrobe potentially decorating Parnell Street by now. He's laid back about her tailor visit, then it's off to see the Emperor, who greets them warmly. Before discussing anything, the Emperor wants Olivia to sign the marriage certificate. Olivia hesitates, asking for a clean break from the Parnells before proceeding. The Emperor laughs, revealing the Parnells have already annulled her previous marriage. Relieved and happy, Olivia signs the certificate without a second thought. When the Emperor hands Ian the certificate, he hesitates for a bit and there's a tangible moment of tension in the air. While Tyrone believes the certificate to be insufficient proof of their marriage, the Emperor reassures him that the seal and certificate were intended to keep him from later changing his mind. In an unexpected but wholly welcome turn, Ian pitches for their wedding to be held in the Diamond Room, a setting usually reserved for the most lavish of imperial ceremonies. The Emperor agrees, and just like that, Olivia and Ian's wedding is set to be nothing short of spectacular. After Olivia and Ian have signed, they thank him and depart. Word would later be sent to James, who is currently on the battlefield. Stepping out of the palace, Olivia and Ian mull over their meeting with the Emperor, casually discussing the newfound ease of calling each other by their first names. Olivia is taken aback when Ian suddenly calls her wife. In an attempt to lighten the mood, Ian whispers her name, causing Olivia to jump back, half startled, half amused. Ian then offers his hand as a peace offering, which she accepts, and they continue on together, a bit more connected than before. Not long after, a letter from the Imperial family announces their wedding date has been set for 2 weeks out. With preparations in full swing, Olivia volunteers to take on some of Ian's responsibilities. He agrees, assigning Ramana, the head maid, to assist her. As Ian begins showing unexpected tenderness, Olivia finds herself grappling with accepting this new side of him. Olivia then tasks Ramana, her maid, with informing the Parnells about retrieving her belongings, a move Ramana deems as slightly vengeful. Olivia, however, sees it as practical, hoping to repurpose her old wedding gown for the upcoming ceremony. Ramana worries about bad luck, but Olivia brushes off superstitions. Soon, a box arrives from the Duke's family, but instead of her belongings, it contains jewelry and a letter explaining her items had been discarded. The whole saga with Olivia wanting her stuff back from the Duke's crew? It all boiled down to what was tucked away in that jewelry box, a necklace. You see, they ended up shipping it over to her, despite her earlier claims of it being no big deal. But here's the kicker, that necklace was everything but pointless. Olivia didn't exactly grow up rolling in cash, so this heirloom from her mom was pretty much her one prized possession. Getting it back wasn't just about reclaiming a piece of jewelry, it was like officially closing the chapter on her life with the Duke. That night, Ian decides to check in on Olivia, only to find her out like a light. He stands there for a moment, taking stock of everything he's come to learn about her, though he realizes that, in truth, he barely scratches the surface. Who is Olivia, really? As he spots the necklace resting against her skin, the one Ramana had mentioned, it hits him just how much this piece means to her. Watching her there, peaceful and oblivious to his presence, Ian feels this profound sense of care for her. He even whispers to her, sharing words she won't hear, but that somehow deepen their bond. Ian's looking forward to their future together, more than he ever thought possible. Before they know it, the wedding day is upon them. For Olivia, it's round 2 at the altar, but memories of her first go-around, the isolation, the cold aftermath, start to creep in, casting shadows of doubt. Will this time be any different? Lost in these thoughts, Ian walks in. Seeing her so caught up, he can't help but show his concern. It's a simple gesture, but it triggers this wave of emotion in Olivia, a stark contrast to the solitude of her past experiences. Olivia tries to hold back her tears, and she's not even sure why she's getting all emotional, but she is. Ian asks if she's all right, and she makes the mistake of saying it's just wedding jitters. Then, her hubby-to-be takes a jab at her, like, you get those for the second one too? Her reaction to his little dig not only makes his joke even funnier but also totally changes her mood and snaps her out of her funk. Once he's sure she's okay, he shows her the rings they'll be wearing. She gets back at him for his earlier comment when she agrees not to wear the ring from her previous wedding, because the other half is on the battlefield. She puts on the new ring and is surprised that it fits perfectly. Tyrone admits he sneakily got her finger size without her knowing. The butler comes in and interrupts their couple chat, telling Tyrone that the guests are arriving, and he needs to go greet them. Before he leaves, Tyrone whispers in her ear that he'll see her in a minute, breaking her second rule. He's obviously having a blast messing with her. She was wrong about him, he's not like her ex at all. As she's standing at the altar with Ian, she starts thinking about her mom. Unlike her first wedding, where she was all alone at the altar, this time she's got her future husband by her side, and the hall is full of life and looks amazing. She's glad her dad can't make it and plans to keep him out of her life but wants to have her little sister come live with her. She's deep in thought as the priest goes through the wedding spiel, but Ian brings her back to reality by asking what she's thinking about. She says she was just taking in the wedding, but Ian wants to make sure his bride-to-be isn't thinking about another man. Technically, she was thinking about her dad, who is a man, but she denies it. Ian points out that he's the only one most people in the room will be thinking about, and she silently agrees. The priest is too busy doing his thing to notice their little chat. Ian mentions James, but before they can finish talking about him, the priest asks for their vows of faithfulness. Olivia didn't have her vows ready, but Ian saves the day with a kiss. There are lots of different opinions about the wedding, some good, some bad, and people are feeling all sorts of ways about accepting the marriage. The way Ian kissed Olivia made the town wonder if he was really a eunuch or just pretending to be one. After the ceremony, Olivia Tyrone thought it would be rude to leave without saying hi to the guests, but Ian didn't care. He was sure the Emperor would handle it. Earlier in their love story, Olivia said she was cool with Ian being an orphan, but now he says something that makes us wonder if he's also relieved his parents are gone. They get to spend the night at the palace, and Olivia thinks it's because the Emperor is kind and loves Ian, but Ian thinks the Emperor has his own agenda. Olivia's always getting lost in thought, so to save time, Ian just carries her in his arms to their room in the palace. The palace maids dress her up for the night, but she has no idea what outfit they picked. It's only when she's in bed for the first time that she realizes how skimpy her nightgown is under the covers. Since they're just supposed to be sleeping, she plans to use the covers to deal with her gown situation. When Ian finally shows up, Olivia notices that he's all dressed up too, but she decides to ignore him and his sexy body. She pretends to be asleep or just too tired to deal with him. But then he reminds her about what she said at their first meeting, about how spending a night together on Imperial grounds would make the marriage a no-go. And then he drops the bombshell that he's not impotent after all. Olivia's like, whoa, wait a minute, and reminds him that she doesn't want kids. Turns out, the reason he didn't clear the air about not being impotent was because he didn't want kids either. So, they're on the same page, right? Anyway, Olivia lets her guard down, and things start getting steamy. She double-checks that he's not a eunuch, and apparently, the Emperor mentioned his potency at the marriage certificate signing, which she totally missed. She tries to avoid the moment of passion, but Mr. Tyrone and the situation make it pretty hard to resist. Morning comes, and Olivia realizes she's been played. She gives him a piece of her mind, but he tells her that he never lied. He's just not the type to fall in love or chase every woman, and he forgave her for being rude to him when they first met. Olivia starts wondering why a guy who'd been single for 2 decades in his previous life was so quick to accept her proposal. After some thinking, she figures out that he had a thing for her since day one. Everything about her just clicked with what he wanted in a woman. He tries to get things going again, but she shuts it down, saying she's hungry. They agree to get some breakfast, so she gets dressed, and they head to the palace dining hall. Olivia's kicking herself for letting him have his way and swears it won't happen again. At the dining hall, she's a bit annoyed that nobody told her the Emperor would be joining them, especially since he already had breakfast without them. When she apologizes for being late, the Emperor's all, no worries, we're family, and mentions that he had a nightmare about her leaving his cousin, which is why he's been in the dining hall since he woke up. Learning about the Emperor's true colors changes Olivia's initial thoughts about him and the throne, and she's not as scared of him anymore. He gets on Ian's nerves too, but Ian holds back because, he's the Emperor. The Emperor asks how long they're staying and offers to set up quarters for them. When Duke Tyrone says he's leaving later that day, the Emperor tries to convince them to stay, but Ian suggests they go on a honeymoon instead. The Emperor brings up this mandatory Grand Council thing the next day and takes off. Ian gets pissed and says it out loud, but Olivia's like, shoo, you just insulted the throne. Since their breakfast plans got messed up, the couple decides to have breakfast in bed. Olivia's hoping it's just breakfast, but surprise, surprise, it's more than that. She's mad that she trusted him, thinking they'd just have breakfast, but he reminds her that she's the one who proposed. She figures his mood depends on how comfy the room is, so when he suggests going home, she's all for it, hoping it'll keep him from getting in the mood. He wants more action, and she has to write a memo. He's cool with birth control and being faithful, but not with the number of sleepovers. Olivia admits to being scared but assures Ian that she won't reject him and he shouldn't reject her either. She just wants him to reduce the intensity a bit, and as always, he quickly agrees. They discuss it a little more and Ian wonders what made his wife so afraid of passionate moments, feeling jealous that it might have been because of her ex-husband. Next scene, we learn that Olivia and James Parnell have known each other since they were in school. Thoughts of Olivia actually wake James from a week-long coma after being injured in battle. A soldier updates him on the war, and then James rests but can't stop thinking about Olivia. He notices his ring is missing, which is odd because he never takes it off. The soldier informs him it's being repaired. James is in tremendous pain, more than just from the injury, and then he receives some letters that make it even worse. The young soldier reveals the rumor that turned out to be true. Olivia and Ian were involved, and the king knew about it. James is stunned that he lost his wife to a man who can't even have children. He hadn't even signed the divorce papers, and reading those letters causes his wound to reopen. Meanwhile, Olivia is thrilled with how her second life is going compared to the first. She's sleepy but won't go to Ian's room because they haven't fully agreed on their arrangement. She tells him to stay 2 meters away and stop following her. She tries to sleep but can't stop thinking about Ian, until a letter from her father distracts her. The Parnells took back the money they paid for Olivia to marry James, so her father is trying to get her to pay for his debts and lifestyle. But she's judging him for the mistakes he made in her first life and how he treated her and her sister. She doesn't care what happens to them now. She's 20 and only cares about saving her 14-year-old sister Annie from the terrible marriage her father forced her into before. Olivia is determined to prevent that from happening this time. We then see Olivia's father, who's furious at the Florentine mansion because she remarried without telling him, and he thinks she's ungrateful. He finally receives her response, thinking she won't ignore family, but he's wrong and her letter infuriates him even more. However, he then discovers Olivia's letter to Annie about trying to sneak her out, and he sees a glimmer of hope. Meanwhile, at Ian's mansion, his officials are puzzled as they watch him read a serious-looking document and burst out laughing. His top assistant asks why he's so happy, and Ian explains that his wife wants him to stay 2 meters away because he's going to kiss her. The assistant is shocked and has many questions. Tyrone gives orders with a big smile on his face, and then they inform him about the letter from the Florentine mansion. Ian is hearing about his father-in-law's situation from his advisors, who are linking it to James and the massive debt he owes the Parnells. While the advisors debate what to do, Ian is more interested in why the Parnells are suddenly demanding repayment. They conclude that dealing with his wife's family isn't worth it. The conversation shifts when Ian's top advisor congratulates him on starting a family and asks what changed his mind. Ian explains it isn't the song but rather the writer and her future plans that convince him fate brought her to him. His anti-romantic advisor isn't impressed and urges them to focus on their tasks, announcing his date with his wife later. Olivia is surprised by the unexpected date, thinking it's dinner but finding a carriage waiting downstairs. She complains about not being informed earlier and takes a few minutes to prepare, changing her outfit and makeup. Ian stays silent, eyeing her necklace during the ride. Instead of a restaurant, they arrive at a boutique. Ian wants her to wear a new necklace, concerned about her always wearing the same one. The boutique owner is surprised by his gesture but suggests a few pieces instead of a large order. Ian insists but is reprimanded by the owner. He mentions the jewelry is for an upcoming event, and Olivia reveals the significance of her current necklace. It's her mother's. During dinner, Olivia notices Ian's strange behavior since the jeweler's visit, attributing it to her necklace. They enter the restaurant amid attention and gossip, with Ian used to being in the spotlight. Olivia feels uncomfortable, especially with a red-haired lady's gaze, and pulls Ian into a private room. On their way home, Olivia brings up her sister Annie, wanting to protect her. Ian clarifies he doesn't want a superficial relationship. He tells her they're in this together now, and there's no need for lengthy explanations. He's here for her sister as much as he is for her. He gets that the mess with her dad is a headache Olivia would rather not drag into their new life together, and he respects her wish to tackle this one solo. Fast forward 3 days, and Olivia's gearing up for what feels like the ultimate face-off with her dad. She picks out her outfit with care, opting for something that screams "Don't mess with me." She's convinced her dad's caught wind of the letter she sent Annie and won't pass up the chance for a confrontation. Just as she's about to head out, she spots Ian, all dressed up and ready to roll. He offers a quick sorry for butting in but insists on coming along for moral support. Before she can even protest, he's got her by the hand, and they're off to Annie's. Once they arrive, Olivia zeroes in on Annie, completely ignoring her dad's presence. Her dad tries to kick up a fuss, but Ian steps in, giving Olivia the chance to deal with her father out of earshot. Olivia doesn't mince words, reminding him he wasn't exactly invited and should consider himself lucky to get any hospitality at all. Meanwhile, Annie can't help but admire her big sister's guts. Taking her dad aside, Olivia's ready to lay down the law. She takes him to a secluded greenhouse, hoping to keep Ian out of the family drama. She tells her dad straight up that she's done playing nice, especially when it comes to how he treats Annie. She's adamant about taking her sister under her wing and demands her father back off. But the man loses his cool, trying to lash out at Olivia, only to be stopped in his tracks by knights from Ian's place, swords at the ready. Olivia, unshaken, tells her dad to hit the road, and he does, skulking away with threats of revenge on his lips. Annie opens up to Ian about her struggles at her father's mansion, and he reassures her that she's safe now and can start a normal life with them at his mansion. Annie then shares painful memories of her father's neglect, especially after Olivia's marriage. Ian senses Annie's worry for Olivia and suggests they check on her. They head to meet Olivia, and Ian gives Annie a tour of the palace. Annie enjoys the scenery and finds Ian to be different from the rumors. When they finally meet Olivia, their reunion is disrupted by the Viscount, Annie's father, who tries to take her away. Ian suggests they listen to Annie's decision. Annie declines her father's offer, recalling her past experiences. The Viscount lashes out, insulting Olivia's mother, but Ian warns him to stop. The Viscount storms off, and Annie apologizes for involving Olivia and Ian, who reassures her of her place with them. Settling into life at the mansion, Annie's finding her groove, especially with her music. Olivia's loving the vibe, asking Annie about her musical talents. Annie's just stoked Olivia ended up with Ian, it feels like hitting the jackpot. Olivia's relieved too, knowing Annie's far from her dad's reach and won't have to marry some creep. The sisters are soaking up the good vibes, and Annie can't help but notice Olivia rocking a necklace she used to pretend to hate. Back in the day, Annie secretly admired it, even though it always ended up getting tossed out a window. When Ian pops in and wants to hang out, they realize Annie needs more stuff now that she's staying with them. Initially, Ian plans to take Annie shopping, but then Olivia gets roped in when Annie plays the sick card, leaving Olivia no choice but to tag along with Ian. Next day, on their way to shop for Annie, Olivia's a bit miffed about Ian and Annie ganging up on her. Ian's just bragging about how well he gets along with Annie. Olivia, almost on autopilot, suggests hitting up a store she's not even that into, then quickly switches to wanting to check out a clothing store. At the store, Olivia's admiring the clothes and thinking Ian could probably rock a potato sack and still look good. After Ian requests to buy all the gowns in the store section, Olivia has to toss some aside, scolding Ian for being wasteful. He tries to justify it by saying he's spending for her, but Olivia insists on taking only 5 gowns, which pleases him. Ian then suggests she change her hairstyle, triggering memories of the red-haired lady from their last date. Olivia questions if he likes wavy hair like hers, but he denies it. She wonders why she thought of the lady, thinking she might be too sensitive. After the shopping spree, Olivia realizes Ian is thrilled she went with him, and she's relieved Annie likes the items they bought. However, she feels uncomfortable with Ian's spontaneous spending and decides to suggest starting a business together. Ian reacts positively, and they meet with his top aide, Celine, who supports the idea. Olivia feels encouraged to voice her opinions more in the future. Celine jokes about becoming her aide instead of Tyrone's, but Ian doesn't catch on and playfully threatens Celine. After clearing the air, Celine pledges loyalty to Ian. Later, Olivia discusses Annie's school choice and then joins Annie in visiting Ian in his room. Annie thanks Ian for his advice, and Olivia observes their closeness, marveling at Annie's transformation. Annie bids Ian goodnight, leaving Olivia feeling awkward. She tries to apologize for Annie's behavior, but Ian brushes it off, understanding Annie's fears about their relationship. Olivia is moved by Ian's kindness and feels closer to him than in her past life. The next morning, Romeo at the Alkaisis mansion is interrupted by James Parnell, an unexpected visitor who should be at the battlefield. Meanwhile, Olivia sits peacefully at her desk, content in the knowledge that the news of her marriage to Duke Tyrone has spread far and wide. She maintains her communication with Romeo, and everything seems to be falling into place for her. The mall blueprints arrive earlier than anticipated, hand-delivered by Ian's top aide. Olivia envisions the mall standing out from the rest, with an impressive 5 floors. She and Celine engage in a lively discussion about the mall until Tyrone joins them, playfully accusing Celine of plotting something mischievous with Olivia. With this matter settled, they move on to the final hurdle. The mall still lacks a name. Obtaining approval from the city would be a breeze if they had a name, but alas, they do not. Once the trio settles on a name, Ian, the one who knows the Emperor better than anyone else, the one who sees beyond his smiles, brings up His Highness's birthday. He is well aware of his descendants, including the princess who became a prince, Status. In another part of the kingdom, Status meets with her father, the Emperor, to discuss her stance on the elections. She intends to follow Romeo's lead, recognizing that he is different from the others. The Emperor then mentions his encounter with Ian on his way to see Status. Her memory of Ian is tainted, as the Emperor never showed a shred of humanity to anyone but him. Meanwhile, Olivia immerses herself in the beauty of a room she had poured her heart into designing. Her thoughts wander from getting Annie a room to ensuring she doesn't cross paths with Ian, and finally, her mind settles on Ian himself. He has been occupying her thoughts more and more lately, appearing in places he is not and his voice echoing in her mind. Lost in thought, she is startled by a hand on her shoulder. Ian apologizes for frightening her, and when questioned about his unannounced entry, he explains that he feels she has been avoiding him. She quickly dismisses this notion before inquiring about the reason for his visit. Ian informs her of the need to choose matching outfits for the Emperor's birthday party. She takes a playful jab at his love for dressing up, asking if she should get him a doll. In his defense, he plays an old card, claiming that he is doing it for her. Mrs. Tyrone is unsurprised by this, as it is one of her husband's go-to lines. Their conversation is interrupted by a butler delivering a letter from the palace. It pertains to a meeting that the Duke of Tyrone, Crown Prince, and Count Alkaisis must attend. Olivia is delighted at the prospect of seeing Romeo again, excited that in this life, just like her last, he has become a companion to Status. It has been a while since she last saw him. Romeo, however, does not seem too thrilled about the letter. Several days later, the couple finds themselves on their way to the palace. Olivia, the star of this piece and the Duchess of Tyrone, endures her husband's playful taunts about the dress she has chosen to wear. He clearly favors the red one, but she insists that it would be inappropriate for a family gathering. In a light-hearted retort, she threatens to buy him a doll. Olivia's mind is preoccupied with the desire to speak with Romeo and express her gratitude for being the backbone of her new life. Ian, sensing her wandering thoughts, assures her that she has nothing to worry about. He also expresses hope that a specific person will be present at the meeting. Olivia silently prays it isn't Romeo, as he was the one who spread the song. Instead, Ian reveals that he is referring to Prince Status. Upon receiving word of their arrival, Status orders that they be admitted. Olivia, ever courteous, greets the Crown Prince. His Royal Highness apologizes for his absence at their wedding, and when Olivia mentions that the ceremony will take place in the Diamond Ballroom, he snaps. The response he gives Olivia causes her to wonder about the sudden shift in the room's atmosphere. Ian and Status then engage in a heated verbal exchange that touches on every aspect of their lives. The thought of them being close lingers in Olivia's mind, as they do bear a striking resemblance. However, when she voices this observation, both the Crowned Prince and Duke Tyrone vehemently reject the notion and continue their brawl. Olivia realizes that in her previous life, she was and will be much closer to Romeo than in this second life. The Emperor intervenes to defuse the situation, reminding Status of his earlier warning about such behavior and suggesting that Olivia may already be pregnant. To His Majesty's disappointment, he learns that Olivia is not pregnant. He had been sending letters requesting to see her, but Ian always brushed them off, claiming Olivia was ill. The Emperor had even procured a congratulatory gift, which he now deems unnecessary. When Ian states that they are not ready for children at the moment, the prince launches an attack on the couple, claiming that the rumors are true. Ian turns the tables, suggesting that the gift intended for Olivia be given to the prince instead, as he is getting married. Status takes offense, as he is no longer female and cannot bear children. Noticing another war brewing, His Majesty proposes that they live in peace for a while. He then introduces Romeo as the future empress. The atmosphere in the room is far from normal, and Romeo appears unhappy. When Olivia inquires if their families have met, Status informs her that the Alkaizes are familiar faces to her and that Romeo was chosen due to his distinct hair color. Olivia is disgusted by the royals' lack of respect for marriages and wonders how Romeo is coping. As the crowned prince brings up the topic of Olivia and Ian's marriage causing a stir in the empire, Olivia ponders the reason behind their hostility towards each other. The nobles place little value on love, but Duke Tyrone believes he has found it and tells Status that he knows nothing about it. Their war reignites, but the emperor ignores it and asks Olivia about the name of the store she's working on. She silently pleads with Ian to behave and not make the atmosphere weird, and to support her in saying that they haven't chosen a name for the store yet. She can't even bring herself to say the name out loud. Ian sees another opportunity to boast about their happy marriage and announces the store's name as Martini, much to Olivia's surprise. The emperor asks if it has any connection to the olive-themed cocktail, which Ian confirms, adding that Olivia came up with the idea, so he thought it best to name it after her. His plan works, and Status is angered once more. His Majesty, enjoying the brawl, appreciates the chosen name. As His Majesty must depart, he leaves the couples alone. Status suggests they take a walk, and they all comply. In the aftermath of his verbal altercation with the crowned prince, Ian realizes the consequences of his actions and we see him begging Olivia for forgiveness. His foe returns, interrupting him, and they engage in a fresh verbal battle. Olivia, unwilling to be a party to their war, silently walks away when Romeo takes her by the arm. As they seek a secluded spot to talk, away from the constant brawling of their partners, Romeo's concern for Olivia's happiness becomes evident. Compared to her life as the Duchess of Parnell, Olivia expresses her contentment and joy in being the Duchess of Tyrone. The atmosphere shifts as Romeo's demeanor turns serious, and he cautions her not to panic at what he's about to reveal. Curiosity piqued, Olivia listens intently as Romeo discloses that her ex-husband is in the capital city. Though she nearly panics, Romeo manages to quiet her in time, explaining that everyone is aware of James's presence, and now she is too. As he attempts to leave, Olivia grasps his arm, inquiring about his own happiness. Romeo's response is ambiguous, stating that he was destined to end up in the system regardless. Olivia expresses her sincere desire for her best friend to be happy and smile the way he makes her smile. Touched by her words, Romeo expresses his gratitude. Suddenly, Ian appears, spotting the pair. Romeo hastily apologizes to Ian and departs without incident. As the Duchess and her Duke walk together, Olivia's mind wanders, pondering how James could be in the capital city and remain silent after more than a decade of absence. Ian interrupts her thoughts, asking what occupies her mind. He voices his dissatisfaction with not being able to address her by her nickname or as his wife. Olivia confesses that she prefers to be called by her name, as she has been called many things and has forgotten her own name. She believes it would be best if he, the one closest to her, addresses her as Olivia. This unexpected warmth catches Ian off guard. Relieved by her words, Ian envelopes her in his arms, overwhelmed with gratitude. The moment inspires him to want to kiss her, but he's certain she'd refuse, and she confirms his assumption. However, when Ian calmly assures her that he will only kiss her if she desires it, Olivia is finally swayed. Her feelings become clear, and she realizes that Ian loves her as much as she loves him. In a change of heart, Olivia retracts her refusal, and their lips meet. The couple seizes the opportunity to sit down and discuss Romeo, with Olivia reassuring Ian that she and Romeo are merely friends. They plan to invite Romeo to the mansion, but its current owner is not keen on the crown prince accompanying him. Ian perceives Status as an insubordinate younger brother. Olivia, however, harbors concerns about Romeo's happiness and wonders if Prince Status truly brings him joy. Grateful for Romeo's role in freeing her from the Parnells, Olivia hopes to reciprocate the favor if he is unhappy. Ian isn't overly worried, as Status had chosen a partner based on hair color, which fuels Olivia's concerns. Nevertheless, Ian had helped her overcome most of her previous fears. Thoughts of James and Romeo no longer consume her, and she sits there, holding his arm, filled with gratitude. Her boss's expression fades as she becomes so calm that she longs to return home soon. From a distance, Status observes Olivia and Ian's kiss, believing it to be an act, and leaves in disgust, while Romeo finds solace in Olivia's happiness. The Alkaizes family had predetermined roles for their descendants even before their birth. The first son was destined to grow healthy and manage the family business, the second was to support him, and if a third son were to be born, it was preferable that he was born as a girl. He was to remain in a house that would be most beneficial to the Alkaizes family. Olivia treated Romeo differently, which formed the foundation of their friendship. She approached him during their academy days, inquiring if he had visited the Orse kingdom. Romeo is reluctant to discuss the family business, having no knowledge of it and believing he would never venture to the Orse kingdom. However, Olivia manages to reignite his belief. She expresses her desire for him to take her to the Orse kingdom, as she believes her biological father resides there. Olivia's mother's necklace, a relic from the Orse kingdom, held a special meaning for her. It suggested that her biological father was undoubtedly from Orse, and she made Romeo promise to take her there. However, he was unable to keep that promise because Olivia became the wife of the Duke of Parnell after graduation. Romeo had spread the song in hopes of getting an opportunity to take her to the kingdom of Orse, but now James has returned. Romeo reflects on his interaction with James, who is aware that Romeo had spread the song and believes Olivia is being deceived. James requests that if Romeo cares about Olivia, he should arrange a meeting so that he can speak with her. He suspects James is focused on the rumor of Duke Tyrone's impotence, which is why he wants to see her, but Romeo believes that if she is happy, that is all that matters. Prince Status, known for his stone-cold demeanor, surprises everyone by expressing his affection towards his soon-to-be partner, saying, "You are so special." It's a revelation that catches everyone off guard. He wonders why others worry about not winning hearts, while Romeo remains unfazed. Romeo believes he already holds His Royal Highness's heart, so there is nothing to be concerned about. When asked if he is jealous of the Tyrone couple, Romeo denies it, considering them lucky for not knowing their fate. Status now appears determined to give loving Romeo a chance. The soon-to-be royal couple departs before the Tyrones, prompting them to follow suit. However, before they can leave, the Emperor intercepts them. Despite their reluctance to have him around, they feign enthusiasm. The Emperor presents Mrs. Tyrone with the intended pregnancy gift, downplaying its significance, but the crown within the gift case is undeniably impressive. Olivia is stunned by the gift, as the crown is typically reserved for members of the royal family. The Emperor expresses his delight in finding it a master, but Olivia feels overwhelmed and politely declines, believing it's too extravagant. She looks to Ian for support, but he reminds her that she cannot reject what is already hers. It is also revealed that Ian was named by the Emperor, suggesting a deep connection between them, as the Emperor waves the couple goodbye with seemingly genuine intentions for Ian's well-being. Curiosity gnaws at Olivia, and she yearns to uncover the truth about her husband's relationship with the Emperor. She wonders if he could be the Emperor's secret stepson. However, the statement "if you listen, can you assume the responsibility for it?" gives her pause, making her reconsider her desire to know about their relationship. Nevertheless, she suspects the crown is somehow tied to that connection. Olivia feels spoiled, struggling to find a purpose for the crown. She cannot sell it, as it is a gift, and with no intention of having children, there will be no one to inherit it, which she finds unfair. Ian inquires about Olivia's reluctance to have offspring, and she cleverly turns his own words against him, asking if he would assume responsibility if he listens. He suggests that she try on the crown just once, and despite her hesitation, he persuades her to lower her head and close her eyes. However, instead of feeling the crown on her head, she is surprised by a kiss on her lips. She accuses him of being a scam, but he apologizes, claiming that as she lowered her head with her eyes closed, she looked too beautiful, and the kiss was a reflex. He asks her to lower her head again, and she cautions him to keep his word. This time, he places the crown on her and sits back to admire her beauty, declaring that she is so lovely that he has fallen for her all over again. She dismisses his compliment, but he assures her of her genuine beauty. The couple safely return home and step out of the carriage with their hands intertwined, greeted by the cheers of their servants, signaling the dawn of a new day. The day before had been filled with heated arguments between Prince Status and Ian, but the night took a much hotter turn for Olivia and Ian. After overcoming her fear of intimate encounters and confessing her love for Ian, they shared a passionate night together. Ian expresses his joy at having met Olivia and not ignoring her or her letter. He shudders at the thought of what might have happened if their paths had never crossed, and Olivia admits to having had similar thoughts at times. What if she had stayed with the Parnells? What if she had returned to the convent or simply vanished into the night? At last, Olivia's memories of James Parnell begin to fade, including his lack of love for her, his refusal to speak warmly to her, and everything else. She is finally free from all the ties of her previous life and can focus on finding happiness with Ian in this one. Despite the wonderful night she shared with Ian, Olivia always wakes up feeling drained and tired in the morning, wondering how long she can sustain this pace. As usual, she wakes up exhausted, and when Ian offers to bathe her, she declines, unsure of his intentions. Concerned about her apparent fatigue, he believes it's best to let the servants tend to her. Late in the day, as Olivia sits with her cup of tea in hand, a maid delivers a letter from Romeo, instantly lifting her spirits. She reflects on the previous day's events, with their partners arguing and her conversation with Romeo being interrupted by Ian. As she reads Romeo's letter wishing her happiness, tears well up in her eyes. Romeo seems perplexed about his impending marriage to Prince Status, but he keeps his doubts to himself, believing it is his duty to his family and country. Despite finally sharing his first kiss with Status a day ago, he burst into tears due to his conflicted feelings about their union. He can't stop thinking about why his partner was so angry and how strange his argument with Tyrone was. With so much work to do and so much on his mind, he can't even relax at home. When a visitor arrives, he knows it's James, and his presence brings back memories of what James said about Olivia being tricked. Although Romeo believes James, Olivia has assured him that Ian is a good man, and the smile on her face when she's with Ian is very convincing. Finally, Romeo enters the room where Olivia's ex-husband is waiting. Despite his shyness and fear, when James asks when he will be able to see Olivia, Romeo musters the courage to tell James that he won't allow him to see her. As Olivia's friend, Romeo believes that since she decided marrying Tyrone was what she wanted, all he had to do was support her, and so he refuses to help James. The Duke of Parnell argues that Olivia cannot be happy with a man who is unable to have children, and a family cannot be happy without children. Romeo interprets this as an insult, as he and Status are also unable to have children. Emboldened by this indirect insult, Romeo confronts James, stating that having children is not a major necessity for a happy marriage. With no other option, James leaves, questioning whether Romeo truly has Olivia's best interests in mind as her close friend. After James's departure, Romeo wonders how James knew about his close friendship with Olivia. It's the Emperor's birthday, and Olivia's maids are helping her get ready for the visit to the palace with Ian. They can't stop gushing over how beautiful she looks in her gown, and when Ian walks in, he adds his own glowing praise. Right there in front of the maids, he asks Olivia to spend the whole day with him. She's curious why, and he tells her it's because she's so stunning. The maids are shocked, and Olivia scolds him for being so cheesy in front of them. Once they're alone in the carriage, she assures him that she gets how much he loves her, but sometimes he needs to tone it down. He thanks her for understanding him and gives her a kiss on the cheek. Olivia's not used to this kind of affection, so while she loves how Ian treats her, her old programming sometimes makes her push it away. She thinks about how much better her life is now compared to before. When the Parnells didn't care about her, she had no one to help her get dressed up, and she never went to any events. She's deep in thought about her past, as usual, when Ian taps her, bringing her back to the present. He literally asks her to give him that charming look in her eyes, just for him. They arrive at the palace but don't get out of the carriage right away, making the maids outside wonder what's taking so long. When Olivia finally steps out, her makeup is a mess. She doesn't know the maids are judging her and asks them to help fix her makeup. Then she follows Tyrone into the palace. She thinks about how she's getting less and less tolerant of Ian's constant embarrassing behavior. He makes a joke about the most important thing being inside him, and she tells him to act more appropriate since they're at the palace. The Emperor watches the couple from a palace window, and his butler asks if he invited them. He doesn't give a straight answer but says they're welcome at the palace for the event. As he keeps watching from the window, the Emperor remembers something that happened 20 years ago. His father told him that his stepmother, the Empress at the time, was pregnant and needed him to take care of his unborn sibling. Old man Emperor didn't know when he would die, and he made it clear he didn't want to. He told his son to protect his unborn sibling, hoping he would. The Emperor was glad his father was about to die after living a life that hurt the empire, but he wondered how he would get rid of the child his young stepmother was about to have. Ian reminds Olivia that she wanted to know about his relationship with the Emperor and tells her she's right, there is a story there. He says there might be an announcement about their relationship and tells her not to be surprised if she hears it. She thinks about it for a bit and asks if Ian and the Emperor are lovers. He immediately says no, and they quietly walk into the palace halls like everyone else. At the entrance, she remembers all the times she had to go into that hall alone and is glad she's not alone now, holding tightly to her man's arm as they walk in. Their arrival is announced, and Olivia is shy but acts like she's not. Ian compliments her on how well she handles the attention. It's not easy for her, even though it doesn't look like it, and she's a little annoyed by the very loud gossip about her and her husband. She quickly looks around the hall and notices the familiar face of the red-haired woman who was staring at them at the restaurant a while back. Trying to avoid the red-haired woman, she asks Ian to tell her about his relationship with the Emperor. The red-haired lady gets closer to them, probably hoping to start a conversation. But when the Emperor's presence is announced, everyone's attention shifts to the leader of the empire, saving Olivia from having to talk to the red-haired lady. Everyone bows, and even the Emperor's arrival can't stop Olivia and Ian from being the center of attention. He starts by greeting everyone there and thanking them for celebrating his birthday. Then he announces status and Romeo's engagement, which surprises the audience and becomes an even bigger topic than Olivia and Ian. While others see it as a simple engagement, Olivia sees it as a marriage where status gives up the throne, hinting that more drama is about to unfold. They take their vows of faithfulness, and their marriage is sealed. Then the Emperor asks Status what he would do if another heir to the throne challenged the prince's spot. Voices rise in the hall as people start murmuring. What does the emperor mean by another heir? In response to his father's question, Status asserts his dominance, claiming that no one can beat him. The emperor then plays off the question as a joke and praises Status for his worthy response. But the surprises don't stop there. The emperor announces that he has another special revelation, a hidden truth. Duke Tyrone is his youngest brother. Olivia, Romeo, and everyone else in the room are shocked by the emperor's announcement. He explains that he didn't give Ian his rightful position because Ian wasn't ready for it, but now he is. He calls the Tyrone couple up to the stage where he's standing. Olivia tries to take it all in. She suspected they were related, but she wasn't expecting this. The emperor blames his confession on Olivia, saying that her presence in Ian's life and the possibility of them having a child pushed him to reveal Ian's true position. Olivia is stunned by how much she has influenced the future, since Ian never identified as royalty in her previous life. She puts all the pieces together: the crown, Ian's relief that his parents were dead, his earlier unhappiness, and holds his hand even tighter. She's not disappointed that so much was kept from her, but grateful to be a part of his life. Ian's position as Grand Duke is restored in front of everyone, sparking another wildfire of murmurs. Everyone in the room is amazed, but Status seems unfazed. Did she know all this? Did she not? Ian appears grateful. He has Olivia by his side, and everything that was denied to him is about to be restored. He will be the country's master, and Olivia will be its great duchess. Olivia is overjoyed with the declaration. She's shocked but grateful to the emperor as she processes everything he's said, comparing her first life to this one. What could possibly go wrong? I object, a familiar voice declares from the crowd of guests. The speaker goes on to say that Olivia is not fit for the position. She recognizes the voice, and it robs her of the ability to move while everyone else is curious, waiting for the speaker to reveal himself. He makes his way to the stage as onlookers wonder why he was even in the building. It's James, and he wants Olivia to come with him. The murmuring in the hall intensifies, and James' presence brings a lot of mixed reactions from the crowd. Olivia questions herself. Why did she forget about James? He had never spoken his mind about anything or complimented her or whatever she did. He only craved the satisfaction he'd get from her after curfew. Is a showdown between James and Ian about to happen? Yes. James calls her to come to his side, referring to her as dear wife, but Ian won't have it. He makes it clear to everyone that the proof of annulment of James' marriage with Olivia had reached the front lines where James was, and his actions are scaring Olivia. She's no longer James' wife or the Duchess of Parnell, but the Duchess Olivia Tyrone. She admires her husband for standing up for her and also makes up her mind that she can't be pushed around like she was in her first life. James questions the validity of the annulment because it didn't have his seal stamped on it, and the crowd goes wild again. It's clear now that not everyone knew what was going on. Ian, knowing full well that James never stamped the annulment papers, relies on the stamp of the emperor on the document, basing its validity on the emperor's approval. Olivia is also certain that James didn't stamp the document because he was at the battlefront, so it was the doing of her then mothers-in-law, who hoped to get her out of the house. Their forgery is liable to 10 years imprisonment, but Olivia thinks James punishing his mothers is next to impossible. She's wrong. James announces that the culprits of the forgery are currently in detention, leaving the entire room in awe. How could the mama's boy change so much? Olivia realizes she hasn't seen any of her former mothers-in-law in the ballroom, which is unlike them to miss big events. She wonders if James truly made his mothers serve the punishment for their forgery and why James would go so far for her when back then they were nothing. James and Ian keep going at it while everyone watches, but the emperor gets bored and finally steps in. He points out James' change, and James blames his change on his wife being stolen by Ian, which isn't the case. The emperor rebukes him and suggests he refrain from using that term. He shuts down the accusations by stating that the right steps were followed to legally establish the marriage and that if James truly cared about Olivia, he wouldn't insult her in public. James pushes on with his argument, saying that if he wanted to correct this in silence, he wouldn't have been given the opportunity to do so. He's done watching their show and wants his wife back. Ian asks what will happen if he refuses James' request, but the Duke of Parnell is ready to take his wife back by force. Looks like the drama is just beginning. If you want us to continue this story, please comment Olivia below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support means a lot to us. Until next time, ciao.